We are tracking breaking news. President Trump facing this now growing push for what will be potentially his second impeachment. Democrats already drafting these articles that formally accuse President Trump of abusing his authority and power to incite the insurrection the nation witnessed this week, laying out what everyone saw and heard, how Donald Trump incited a mob of his own supporters who engaged in, quote, violent, deadly, destructive, and seditious acts. Tonight, I can tell you, this is not a drill. This is not an exercise. The Congress of the United States is responding to the illegal invasion of its literal building and the president's months-long attacks on what the building represents and is supposed to practice, attacks on American democracy itself. Now, this is the most serious measure the Congress has for accountability. This is the Constitution's formal method for confronting a criminal president. I know there's a lot going on. I know we covered an impeachment before, but let that sink in. The Constitution states that if the president is a criminal and is acting to perpetuate abuse of power and crimes in office, there is one way to deal with that. Charge them in the House. Try them in the Senate. Now, this tonight is the swiftest push for an impeachment we've ever seen in American history, but these are unusual times. You may not be surprised to hear one more thing that is faster or bigger or worse than usual. Tonight, we can report as the week ends, and that we're just still less than 2 days out from when this emergency was first contained in the Capitol. Now, over 200 members of Congress support the impeachment of Donald Trump, even if he's leaving anyway. They support it tonight. These new articles speak to both accountability for the president's actions and also preventing potential further danger. We're not through this, as you know. These new articles state the president remains a, quote, threat to national security, democracy, and the Constitution if allowed to remain in office. Speaker Pelosi today condemning Trump as, quote, unhinged and unfit, saying that if he does not resign, they will move forward with impeachment. Another member of her leadership team is backing impeachment and calling on the other executive branch of government to act as well.
This is bad stuff. And it's time for everybody to call it what it is. It is time for the Republican leadership to invoke the 25th Amendment. They need to do it. Pence needs to do it. But if he doesn't, we need to impeach.
It's my job to tell you this is a big deal. Indeed, there are many political reasons why many in Congress, really in both parties, might rather just move on, get through the next 2 weeks, and not launch into this. There are people, serious people, who just lived through something terrible that could have been far worse and even more violent than the tragic death that already occurred, who don't think that is a risk America can afford tonight. I'm not trying to scare you. We work very hard to give you the facts and the evidence on this program, not hyperbole. But I am objectively telling you that's what a lot of members of Congress are saying is necessary, that this must occur before something far worse occurs. Now, that's an approach on the reckoning for the insurrection, which we're all still coming to grips to understand. The other big story, part of our top story tonight, is that even if the Trump administration's law enforcement system failed on Wednesday, there is now huge pressure on them and all levers of government to go to work, to try to fix this, to investigate and get all the facts about Wednesday, including independent reporters who are ferreting out new information I'm about to tell you about, new leads. I want to mention some of these are the same very journalists who have been under fire by Donald Trump for years, literally attacked at the riot. More on that later. But they're also the ones getting America the evidence so you can decide as a citizen what to do about it, on the plotting, on the action at these riots. Newly revealed video exposing rioters breaking down a barricaded door, some overwhelming officers and clashing with them. That's significant for many reasons. It's a crime. It's also a contrast to some of the first footage that went viral that appeared to show a different tenor. There's also new evidence showing criminal and violent motives for plans that were even worse than what went down Wednesday. Some rioters now exposed and caught bringing tools of kidnapping, this one with zip ties that could be used to kidnap or illegally restrain hostages. Others brought bombs. We're lucky they didn't go off. An Alabama man, we now know, tonight brought 11 Molotov cocktails discovered in his nearby truck. He also had gasoline. The mounting evidence shows the tools of terror that were amassed for these explicit plans to commit terrorism by Americans, by some of these Trump supporters. Now, some plotters were writing on a website popular with QAnon followers, "We will storm the government buildings, kill cops, kill security guards, kill federal employees and agents." And then, yes, this is where the Trump plot comes back, quote, "demand a recount." An insurrection. Not a random one, but an insurrection to make good on and deliver what their president had been telling them to do, that the goal was still to stop the count on Wednesday, stop the steal, use violence to do it. There are so many aspects to this. Our coverage has also documented the police double standard on display with the paltry number of arrests for a mob crime scene that was unfolding for hours on television. I can report tonight a tiny bit of that is changing. There are new arrests of some of the prominent people who apparently could have clearly been apprehended on sight. Take Richard Barnett, who famously now broke into Speaker Pelosi's office, bragging about stealing her mail, arrested and charged with entering and remaining unrestricted grounds, violent entry, theft of public property. Tonight, the number of arrests has now topped 50, including 13 federal charges. That's a step. That's more than Wednesday. Each case may yield more information or even some accountability. But remember, that number occurs even as one House presses for impeachment for what they call a presidential crime. It's a low number. The D.C. police still arrested Black Lives Matter protesters at over 6 times this rate for far more peaceful marches just this past summer. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.